Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya.
Once again, we've come together to contemplate this great mystery of the unity and divinity of all life, and the understanding that creation is a living, breathing being. Everything that we can conceive of, everything that we can experience, everything that we know of is part of a unity, a living, breathing unity, that our cosmos is a living, breathing unity. In our last session, looking at the big question, looking at consciousness, our focus was an understanding that everything that exists is a feedback loop, and a feedback loop of intelligence. And indeed, this feedback loop is the definition of intelligence. In the we went back to the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, and our translation of the Upanishads is by the sage S. Radhakrishnan. And S. Radhakrishnan was so venerated as a sage in India that he was made the first president of India. When India became a state in 1947, they asked S. Radhakrishnan, this venerated philosopher, to lead their nation. He wasn't the prime minister. Nehru was the prime minister, but he was the next in line. He was the honorific office of the president. So it's very, very authoritative when in this very precise language, Sanskrit, which is called the perfected language, the language of the gods, that in this translation, Radhakrishna uses intelligence to describe the quality, the fundamental quality of consciousness that is the foundation of all that changes, that is the foundation of manifestation. He uses this word that's translated as intelligence. And again, in Sanskrit, there are many, many different words to very accurately describe the spectrum of consciousness and all these different states of consciousness. And he is using a word that is translated as intelligence. And we go on from there to say intelligence is the ability to learn, and intelligence describes a cybernetic mechanism. And we went on from there to articulate that one of the keys to the unity of all creation is the golden ratio spiral, that energy manifests from the center into the field, that the expression, the movement of energy from the source into the field on every level of microcosm and macrocosm can be described by the golden ratio spiral. That essentially the golden ratio spiral is a mathematics of the life breath of a living universe, and everything that moves is ultimately the movement of the life breath of a living universe. Now, one of our assumptions is that form is an expression of energy, and all form is an expression of the underlying rhythms, the underlying harmonics, the proportional harmonics of the dynamics of the energy field. So with this in mind, we should find the golden ratio spiral, if indeed the golden ratio spiral is the mathematics of energy manifesting from its center, from its source, from its nucleus. We should find a ubiquity of this golden ratio spiral. So here we're first going to look at a picture of the DNA this morning. And here we're going to see that the DNA is defined by the golden ratio spiral. So here we're looking at a diagram of a DNA molecule showing the dimensions of each revolution, and what we see is a cross-sectional profile of the DNA molecule has recently been shown to be in the form of a star decagon, a derivative of the pentagon whose ratio of radius to side is phi. Is phi, is the golden ratio. Again, here's an electron microscope photo of the top of the DNA spiral showing the decagonal structure. Okay. So here we're looking at the golden ratio spiral in the DNA and in the tiniest expression of the microcosm that we can be aware of. Actually, we can also show that if you look at the pattern of the neutrons in subatomic particles, what do we find in that pattern of the trajectory of the subatomic particles here in this illustration here? We see the same golden ratio spiral in subatomic particles in the DNA. Indeed, if you look at the table of the elements, and you'll find that the elements, the periodic table of the elements arranged in a spiral as well. We see this same golden spiral in the rhythms of the ocean. And again, the ocean's rhythms are determined by the solar winds, that the solar winds drive the weather and drive the oceans on our planet. Our planet is 80% water. So we're seeing the same golden ratio spiral that we see in the curl of your hair, the curl of your fingerprint, that we see in the spiral coming out of the cochlea of your ear. That we see in Phyllotoxis, the branches spiral around the trunk of a tree, the leaves spiral around a branch, following the Fibonacci progression, which is again the mathematics of the golden spiral. And all edible fruit, when you cut it longitudinally, latitudinally, you find that you have the pentagram in there, and all of the dynamics of the pentagram are an expression of the golden spiral. And here we're looking the same proportional harmonics of the golden spiral in every creature in nature. You'll find these same proportional harmonics from seashells on up. The same way, if you look at the trajectory of a fly, you'll find that that fly's trajectory as it takes off or lands follows the golden ratio spiral, because it is aligning itself with the etheric body of the earth to maximize its efficiency. And again, the spheres of breath, the atmosphere, the spheres of breath of a living earth are a reflection of the proportional harmonics of the golden spiral, as everything is. Now, we can look at this in another amazing dimension. We can look at so we've been looking at the golden spiral in the microcosm. We've been looking at the golden spiral in the DNA and in the dimension that we are involved in. But if we can look, we can see the golden spiral here in the relationship of the Earth to the moon. So if we draw a radius from the center of the Earth to the surface, and then we draw a line from the center of the Earth to the very center of the moon, we have here a golden ratio relationship, that the scale there is 1.618, exactly 1.618, the relationship of the golden ratio. In the same way, we can find that the planets align around the sun, that the average distance of the planets around the sun is 1.61874, the golden ratio to 1/10,000%. And indeed, if we take this up to the level of the universe, now everything we know about the universe are telling us is that the universe seems to be in the shape of a dodecahedron. And a dodecahedron has 12 pentagons. And the essence of a pentagon is the five-pointed star, and every relationship in the five-pointed star is the golden ratio. Now in the same one, there's another one here where we look at the solar system. And again, all of the planets are aligning themselves as in the solar system. But that's within 2.75% of the golden ratio, and it has to do with sunspot activity. That ultimately what we're looking here is the solar system is a system which is constantly, which is a cybernetic mechanism that constantly is trying to self-correct to perfect the golden ratio spiral. And it's always involved in this dynamic. So here we've been looking at the macrocosm and the microcosm, and seeing a ubiquity, a universality of the golden ratio spiral. And what I'm maintaining here is that the universe is a living, breathing, conscious being, and the mathematics of that breath of life is the mathematics of the golden ratio spiral. And so we see this ubiquity from the DNA to the solar system to the galaxy, to everything we know about the universe as a dodecahedron. And we see the continuity of the golden ratio spiral. And in nature, all forms tend towards the golden ratio spiral. So one of the most profound things about the golden ratio spiral, and we're saying everything that exists has as its underlying energy pattern the dynamic of the golden ratio spiral. So here we're looking at this in a sunflower. And we're seeing the sunflower, this blending of Rajas, the yang breath, and of Tamas, the yin breath. Okay, can we see this pattern of Rajas, the centrifugal, and Tamas, the centripetal? And the thing to understand about Rajas and Tamas, this breath of life, is that it is essentially resonance. It is essentially ultrasonic. That this intelligence is carried on waves of sound. In the beginning of the word is God. That all energy is ultrasonic, that energy is sonic and ultrasonic and beyond that. And that every point where Rajas and Tamas touch each other, the two waveforms counter each other, and we have a still point of Sattva. That the this intelligence, which we call life, or we call energy, or we call the cosmos, or we call God, is so perfected, is so perfect, that at each point that Rajas and Tamas intersect, there's a still point, and that is where the seeds grow. So in the cycle of every nano movement of a quark, in the cycle of every nano movement of a trajectory in the atom, in the cycle of every rhythm of every molecule, of every cell, of every sunrise, of every sunset, of every heartbeat, in every cycle where microcosm touches the next level of microcosm, or macrocosm touches the next level of macrocosm as it breathes in from quark to galaxy. At each point that each cycle expands and contracts, there's a still point of sattva, and the source is omnipresent. The consciousness, the perfection, the wholeness is omnipresent in every cycle on every level of macrocosm and microcosm. That the system self-corrects in every sunrise and every sunset, at every solstice and every equinox. Solstice means to stand still. It's a still point in the rhythms of the earth as it moves from summer to winter, winter to summer. So what we're talking about is the golden ratio makes possible this infinite recursiveness. That the golden ratio makes possible this infinite recursiveness. So, so let's say this is a view of the breath of life here, and this breath is a fabric. They say the web that has no weaver. This breath is a spectrum of etheric vibration from the nano quarks within to the fullness of the breath. And at each point that the yang, the expanding breath, and the yin, the contracting breath, touch, there is a still point of sattva. So we've been contemplating the mathematics of the golden ratio make possible the infinite recursiveness of energy fields, and it explains how when we breathe, how this breath of life can somehow vibrate, resonate down to the atoms of the body, because it's all attuned to the one coil. And there's an infinite recursiveness based on the golden ratio from the quark to the galaxy. It's ridiculous that we believe that life stops here, that we're the only living conscious thing. Indeed, they show that the solar system is a system and is a cybernetic mechanism that is feeding back, constantly feeding back the dynamics of the gravitational fields and gravitational forces of the planets and other elements, attempting to maintain its homeostasis following the golden ratio spiral. So to get back to your question, Maria, we're only talking about one life. That's all there is this one breath of life. And everything that moves is an expression of this one life. One of the things that we've emphasized, that each of us, that this breath of life is called Brahma. And Brahma means an ever-expanding breath, an ever-evolving breath. So here we are immersed in this ocean of life breath, and in each moment life is breathing out, that Brahma is breathing you and I. That you're not breathing, breath is breathing you. You're not breathing breath, breath is breathing you. That in each moment you are the personification of the cosmos, that you are the face, the personification of this ever-expanding, ever-evolving breath of life, and that you personify an instant in the evolution of the cosmos, that you are the cutting edge of the unfolding of the creative potential, of the creative potency of this breath of life, that you are the face of the goddess, that you are the face of God. And that this evolution is expressed in every vector of possibility, and you're expressing this evolution in personhood, that each of us is an instant of this infinite evolutionary force, the incredible creative potential that's on this breath of life, and embodying the journey of the dynamics that each of us personify, a certain play of the planets, a play of the cosmos, and a play of the order of creation, the spectrum of consciousness that is embodied personified in you. So if we look at the encyclopedia of the year, we see a spectrum of consciousness. We see the zodiac is a encyclopedia, and the days of the year and the rhythms of these days, the rhythms of these months, the rhythms of these seasons are the rhythms of a spectrum of consciousness and embody the dynamics of the spectrum of consciousness. And we personify a unique astrological configuration. Each of us is a unique moment, and somehow our lives and our presence in our life contribute to the experience and are fed back on this journey of wholeness and perfection that each of us is on. So the beauty of the system is that the system is is omniscient and omnipresent. That, as we say, in each cycle there's a still point which touches sattva guna. And in the healing arts, this is the health, this is the force of health. That the force of health, the force of perfection, the force of wholeness is always here in each cycle. And every atom of your body is potentially a well to being, this still point, this omnipresent center. And what we're doing in our healing is we're cultivating coherence, energetic coherence. And we're cultivating a sattvic way of life is energetic coherence. And as our field is more coherent, we're able to experience more of the potential which is at the heart of every energy field. And so we're calling this potential health or wholeness. So we're saying that every atom, every molecule, every cell, and in the microcosm of our body is a well-to-being, and we can cultivate this well-to-being in a sattvic way of life. So as this is all made of sacred sound vibration, one of our most powerful tools for cultivating wholeness and attunement to the source is through consciously using sound vibration. And again, we say these chants, these songs are the shields that protect our warriors' hearts. That each of us is on this battlefield of life, and the battlefield is right there between your ears in your mind. That's where the battle takes place, in your mind, as you attempt to deal with your evolutionary challenges. And here are incredible shields for working with and protecting your mental instrument, so that you can care for your mental instrument, so that you can have the discipline and the internal resources to be a champion on this battlefield of life, if you want to look at it through that kind of a metaphor, if you want to facing the challenges which life places before us. Samadhi means concentration. Samadhi means coherence. And what we're cultivating with the sattvic lifestyle, sattva means being. And it's a focus on this. It's an entrainment with the source rather than the field. An entrainment with samadhi. And what you're doing in your pranayama is you're cultivating, elongating that neutral breath, the still point. And yes, that's where the healing takes place, that the still point potentizes the field. So we want to elongate the sattvic portion of the field, the unstruck sound of sattva guna. Again, anahata, the heart center, is called the unstruck sound. That it isn't resonating, it's beyond the duality of yang and yin, it's beyond the duality. Also, looking at doing my approach to energy work is really unique. Other people who teach polarity therapy are in the tradition of Pierre Panetier and teach the general session, or teach based on the elements. But when I was studying polarity, first studied polarity, one of the elders saw the three gunas and realized that that was the key to understanding Dr. Stone's work and the key to understanding energy. And it was so profound that in the middle of the course I was taking at the Polarity Health Institute in Mount Shasta, the teachers, and there was a group of teachers that worked together to try to share the work, stopped teaching the general session and started teaching from Dr. Stone's books, and started to actually teach Dr. Stone and the spectrum of his techniques. So I don't know who else is teaching from the gunas and has a system for presenting polarity therapy based on the gunas that actually works with the physical body the way that this work does. And I just know that this work is profoundly effective, and I'm sure most other approaches in polarity are that effective as well. So I'm going to be teaching the four of the major energy balancing sessions from my book, and the somatic emotional clearing again. And we're also in this, it'll be a course if you're seeking an APP that will earn an APP, but it's just a way of putting together the work that I do and making it available. We'll do a polarity diet together for 8 days. In the midst of this, we'll be doing the energy exercises, which are based on understanding your body as an atom in the body of the cosmos, and aligning your body with the etheric body of the earth through the fluidity and mobility of the axial skeleton and the joints. So it's a unique system of energy exercises based on polarity, based on the Tibetan rites, but with a consciousness of how we're part of the life of a living earth, and how the energies of this living earth step down through the mobility and fluidity of the joints to give us vitality and well-being. So it's a very efficient set of energy exercises with a great payoff with a minimum investment of time and energy. So we'll be doing all of this for probably about 16 weeks. And you can only really take this course with a partner, because it's a hands-on course. Each day I'll be each Thursday I'll be demonstrating a hands-on session in the morning, and then in the afternoon you'll have an opportunity to give and receive it following a Zoom lead-through. So I'll be doing a Zoom introduction and demonstration. We'll be doing mantra yoga, and then I'll introduce a theoretical aspect, and I'll show the application of that in the hands-on energy balancing session. And then in the afternoon I will play the video back of the hands-on energy balancing session, and everybody will get a chance to give it and then receive it. So you can only take the course with a partner.
May the grace of God bless man and every woman in this land. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Whatever comes between us, you know the darkness won't defeat us. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Some say the end is a-coming, said our souls are running, but I say, stay strong, keep your faith alive. Let's all come together, take care of each other. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Hand in hand, side by side, with heart